I'm Katie Dorn. I'm the CEO and co-founder of EmpowerU. I'm going to be leading this webinar for CESA purchasing. Thank you to Mitchell for coordinating. Mitchell, give us a wave. And for Michelle Langenfeld, who's on the call, who's a former superintendent of Green Bay, who's helping us navigate bringing our Minnesota solution to Wisconsin. We're so grateful to have her support and help. We really want this to be a time for you to, we have some of our team on the call. Maureen Scully is one of our reps from for Wisconsin, and Christy Frost is here as well. They'll be manning the chat. So if you have questions or things that come up along the way while I'm kind of presenting, we'll be sure to, they'll let me know. I think you guys are all muted, but we do want you to participate via chat and let us know your questions or thoughts. It'd be fun for you to start out by just kind of putting in chat where you're from, maybe your role in the district, and why you showed up today. And with that, while you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen and start going. We're trying to keep this to a half hour. I think there was an hour on the invitation, but I think our invitation did say that we try to be a good steward of time in 30 minutes. So with that, I'll get started. And Christy and Maureen, just interrupt me if questions come up or things that you want this to be two-way. Just let me know as we go. So, and you may want to, Mitchell, I don't know if you can turn mics off, but if you want to have Maureen unmuted so that if she and Michelle, so that if they have questions that come up, they can let me know. Anyway, like I said, I'm Katie Dorn. I am one of the co-founders, and I am a licensed school counselor and a therapist. And my co-founder, Abby, comes out of the social realm of social thinking. And together, we really had a vision starting in 2015 to really transform student support in a way that was scalable and effective, to take students who were facing non-academic barriers to success and give them a chance to think differently, feel differently, and behave differently, because it's our core belief that students who are stuck in a negative place don't want to be there. They just don't, and they know they need to change something. They just don't know what, and they don't know how. So our mission is to really work with schools to help them expand that support and teach students that really important skill. A little bit more just about me. I was an entrepreneur in the first half of my life, and I came to EmpowerU because of my work as a school counselor. So I was so excited after a midlife kind of career switch that was really catalyzed by family change. My sister had passed away from breast cancer, and she was a single mom of 3 adopted kids, and my husband and I had 4. And we adopted them into our family after she passed, and it was a really hard couple of years. And a lot of the things I'd been doing in my business life didn't seem important anymore. Kind of something like that happens, and it kind of puts your life into perspective. And I was like, I want to do something that's meaningful. So I went back to school to become a school counselor and a therapist, and God bless my husband, because we did have 7 children at home. But it led me to a career I love, and it helped me personally, as inevitably the early trauma and loss of our family came out in all kind of mental health challenges. And I couldn't be the one to fix it. If any of you, typically at this point, I say, like, how many of you have someone in your family, either close to you, in your immediate family or extended, that struggles with anxiety or depression or ADHD or trauma or some post-traumatic stress thing? And typically, I don't know, if you want to raise your hand, typically everyone has someone. That is how pervasive it is. Our story is not unique. But my career led me to tools that really helped me navigate the hard, and it's painful. It's painful to watch students, and more students are really struggling with barriers that are getting in their way of their ability to focus and learn. At a time when your districts are under mounting pressure for academic achievement, you read the headlines, right? It's crazy. There's so much pressure on all of you who are short-staffed. Everyone's still sick. I don't know about you guys, but everyone's sick, and people are still subbing. And now we're supposed to make up this achievement gap. But we know that educators can't be effective, students can't be effective when they're distracted by non-academic barriers. And so really this kind of leads to our mission of EmpowerU. Our mission is to help students and educators become self-directed, engaged learners that can thrive in the face of adversity. Life is hard. We've learned that the past 3 years. Oh boy, have we ever, right? And it's so difficult. Everyone is just really still exhausted. I think that's what I'm hearing across the board. It's been a long few years. But it's really clear that we can't address the learning until we address the hearts and souls of students and educators so they can engage. And we know that resilience, creating a resilient step at the state of mind is really the key. When I made this career switch, I was so naive and so excited. I'm like, oh, I'm working in a school. I'm going to be in a high school. Everyone's going to love kids. And it's going to be we're all going to be aligned and it's going to be great because I love students and what a great place to work. And while everyone did love students, it is tiring and educators are often underappreciated and there's so much on their plates. There wasn't time and place to deliver the support I was hoping to deliver because there was so much to do and not enough time or not enough people to do it. So what did we end up doing? At least I did at our school. We wrote a lot of 504 plans to fix and accommodate. I don't know, put in the chat if that's you too, but that seemed to be the answer. It was like a Band-Aid. And I became really frustrated because I never saw a student get better. I never wrote a 504 plan ever in my years in schools where a student was like, great, now, everything's going to be different in my life. I believe a lot of students heard, oh, guess what? They don't think I can do it either. It often got worse, not better. So I became really, really dedicated to saying, how can we find a way to address student motivation and behaviors and mental health in a way that works, in a way that's going to work, that's going to teach them the skills. And now, over a decade later, the problem's bigger than ever. 88% of students are reporting that they're feeling anxious or stressed, overwhelmed, unable to really focus because of non-academic barriers. 81% of teachers are reporting feeling frustrated and overwhelmed. And I'm sure you're here today because school leaders are looking for solutions that can expand their capacity. Because guess what? The answer to this problem cannot be on the backs of teachers, counselors, support staff. There needs to be a way to scale and get students the help they need without just, here's one more thing for you to do, in addition to everything else, by the way. So I'd love to know, as you look at these numbers, what speaks to you? What are you seeing in your school building right now showing up as the biggest problem? Is it your educators, it's behaviors? Is it student mental health? Is it exhaustion? Is it sickness and subbing? If you don't mind putting in your chat, we'd love to hear from you, and Christy and our team can kind of look at your answers and we can give you some eyesight to what you're facing. I mentioned 504s and, kind of fixing, at EmpowerU, we have core classroom instruction. If you're using a screener, put in the chat. We work with PASS, we work with Sabres, we have partnerships with Panorama. We have a lot of partnerships with screeners that help you identify students who are really struggling. But those numbers, when people are using screeners, the numbers are so high that a lot of districts are just looking for that tier 1 support, teaching those resilience and self-regulation skills to all students. And we have a way that we'll talk about today that's different from other programs that really makes that learning actionable. Because if you're going to take the time and money to invest in something, you want to invest in something that's going to, again, create that change, or what's the point? Social emotional learning can't just be something like math. My son's a middle school math teacher that you repeat and just hope that it sticks, right? It has to be really, you've got to provide that framework and instructional path where students reflect and apply what they've learned to themselves so it fuels behavior change. Tier 2 is really where we start with most districts. You might already have a classroom core instruction, and if you do, great. We can really complement a lot of those. But what about those students who aren't winning? It's more important than ever that you don't just sit them at a computer and have them, be unsupported in this work. We know from our research that for tier 2 interventions for mental health, regulation, behaviors, it needs to be supported. So our 2-tier interventions are different. They really expand your capacity with one-on-one high dosage tutoring, which is coaching from our mental health side to really reinforce these concepts into actionable steps for students so they can make change. So we'll talk today about both of those, the tier 1 and the tier 2. And before they get to tier 3, which is expensive, a lot of schools use us as part of their MTSS system as a documented pre-referral tool for those students who are just showing. For me, when I was a school counselor, be that student, their attendance is down, their missing assignments are up, they're failing a class. Something up. It's not because they can't do the work, it's something in the way. So as they come up in your problem solving teams, what do you do for those students? What tools do you have in your toolbox? We work with districts to be a tool in their toolbox as you identify those students to be something that you can enroll students in in this intervention so they can get the skills combined with support that they need to make the change. And I want to just enforce that we know that we're a tech solution, what we're people powered by humans, not by bots or AI, but real humans that are invested in unconditional positive regard for each student, because we know that it's relationships that power transformation. Technology is great, and our technology is great, but we've combined both in a way that helps us increase student well-being with data-driven outcomes. We're a data-driven solution. We're turnkey. We've worked really, really hard because we know how busy you are to make this really easy to implement so that there's equitable access for all students, easy to turn on, and scalable. We can expand your capacity to serve students in a cost-effective way. And what we know is that our engagement rates in our program are about 90% of student completion. And of those 90%, 93% of students make significant gains in confidence, coping, and persistence. And we share that data with you along the way and at the end so you can evaluate the impact of the program. So how does it work? So students are able to access the program from their devices, or a teacher, if it's teacher-led, does it from their devices, engaging online lessons that are easy to access, use videos. They have an instructional path that's really clear, age-banded from pre-K to educator. And depending on the age, each lesson takes about 15 to 20 minutes for the student to complete. At our tier 2 level, that motivational coaching, that reinforcement of care and human power to take what that student learned and help them apply it to their goals. We're a goal-oriented program, is delivered through coaching through our portal, about 5 minutes of coaching each day, delivered asynchronously. Just like students have texting or Instagram or TikTok, they're used to this. This is where they live on their devices. We deliver that support that helps not just make sure they feel seen and valued and heard, but helps them take action each step. But we do that in collaboration with you because these are your students. You care so deeply for them. When you enroll them in our program, you have a live dashboard that you can monitor their progress, see what they're learning. And when you do have the time to check in with them, you can pull that up and you can scaffold and reinforce the concepts they're learning. And this all adds up together, skills and support to data-driven results. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. How do we make this change? Our main goal, we're not trying to be all things to all people. We are super focused on helping students do one thing, which is learn that the place where they can make change is to take control of their thoughts, their emotions, and that informs their action. This is the think, feel, do cycle. We teach students about this cycle because it's really important for them to understand how their brain works, where these subconscious thoughts are coming from, how that triggers an emotion, and how that informs their behavior. And then we dig deeper so they learn about theirs. They start to learn through our programs that these negative thoughts that persist and happen really so quickly in our subconscious can build over time if we let them. We all have an inner critic. That's our survival instinct, people. We all have it. Every single person on this call, every student in your school. You can't make those go away. Nobody can, but you can learn to control them by identifying them and coming up with strategies to quiet them and to build a strong inner coach. Guess what? Our subconscious is right next to our amygdala, and our amygdala is our feeling center. It's really it's our fear center more than anything, where big emotions come from quickly, meant to decide if it's a bear or a fire so that we run, that thought gets fear, and that fear makes us run from a bear or a fire. But a lot of times our brain can trick us, right? And we teach students this. How many of you have seen this hand model from Dan Siegel? It's such a helpful tool. If you want to make a hand model with us, this is your brain, right? The front of your brain is the prefrontal cortex, and underneath it is your amygdala. And when that happens, when your brain, a subconscious thought of fear triggers an emotion of fear, your amygdala takes over and it flips your lid. And what happens in that time is your prefrontal cortex checks out where your logical thinking lives. And that comes out in anger or shutdown or avoidance. And that happens in classrooms all the time. With students, it's normal for it to happen. It's happening more and more. And it's coming out in really distractive ways. But what we teach students and educators is that they can control this. They can learn to re-engage when they flip their lid. And they can reopen their pathway to their prefrontal cortex by calming down first because this is blocked off right here. This is blocked off when they flip their lid. And if you've ever tried to talk to a student or a spouse or a family member when they're in their state, they can't listen. Why? Because they really can't, because their logical brain is checked out. So the goal of our program is to really teach students to understand this so that they can lower these negative thoughts, these difficult emotions, and by processing and learning them, they can lower that level of stress. If we took the communal stressors that we all have right now from the past 2 years, everyone's walking around right here, kind of like about to flip their lid. It doesn't take much when you're up to here for one thing to make you go into to shut down. I don't know if you feel like that. I feel like that, and students certainly do. So it's more important, if we're going to try to cram more learning into these brains, we need to lower this for educators and for our students. It's critical. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do that. And we have solutions that really can fill the gaps that your district has. We know that you're here today because you're doing great work. You're already doing it. But there's challenges with staffing, and you can only do so much. So we have a consultative approach to help support students wherever you are in your life cycle. Where are your gaps? We can work with you at tier 1. We can work with you at tier 2. We can work in your pre-K programs to really equip families with tools where the parent is the teacher. We can have tier 1 or tier 2 solutions from kindergarten through 12th grade, age banded to be teacher delivered or on their own or supported. And we have educator training, which is really, we'll talk a little bit about each of these quickly to give an overview. Regardless of the level, all of our programs are aligned with CASEL's and National Health and Wellness Standards with the goal of creating self-awareness. So students learn, and they start with, what do you value? What are you best at? Where do you want to make changes in your life? And they actually set goals with the help of their instructor or their teacher. So what they're learning each day is applied to those goals so they can make that change day by day over time. Again, a program of change measured by data. Responsible decision-making, students create personal change. They want to make change, but they don't know how, so we teach them. Realistic thinking, we talked a little bit about taking charge of their thoughts and their feelings with self-regulation so they can manage their thoughts and emotions. And once they're in that place, then they're better able to have that confidence to connect with people in their community, to make meaningful connections. There's so much social isolation right now. So many students that are feeling, not included or belonging. So one of our goals of our program is to really teach the science of friendships, teach them empathy and perspective taking, and more importantly, teach them how to ask for and receive help. If students can learn to do that, that's a game changer. Well, for all of us, really. And again, we use data, and we'll share data with you pre to post on any level of program you do with us. And we can share with you not just the increased well-being of students, but the impact it's having on attendance, decreases in discipline referrals, decrease in special ed referrals, which we know is a goal for a lot of districts. You can't have a third of your students in special ed. You can't invert the triangle. It just doesn't work. So how can you get help to them, increase their confidence and well-being so that you decrease those referrals? And that's where the ROI for this program really comes. And we're super effective at sharing this data with you in a really holistic way through our dashboards. I'm going to just stop real quick and ask my team, are there any questions that came up so far, or anything that before I do a program overview that you want me to address?
No questions, just a comment about lots of grant funding available for mental health and looking for something that has a long-term positive effect.
Yeah, and I think regardless of the outcome of the election today, red or blue or yellow, whatever your political, predisposition, everyone agrees that mental health is an issue. The funding is there, and it's going to continue to be there. It's just that important. And so I'm glad you brought that up, and we can work with your district to really figure out the programs that will work best for you to use those funds in a way that's going to use data to show the impact now and later. And that's one of the things I love, the fact that now and later, because that's really the way we're delivering our program in an evidence-based way. It's a lot like Noom is for weight loss, because it delivers that. It's frequency and dosage, right? You need to deliver the skills, not just once every week up here in front of a class and think it's going to stick. You need to have frequent practice and regular doses of support to fuel that change if it's going to last. It's just like any other kind of high supported program and intervention. frequency and dosage is important. So I'm going to start there talking about tier 2 programs. Again, we work with a lot of screeners. If you don't use one, that's okay. We have a couple we can bring to you with relationships with PASS, which we love, or Sabres, both are great. But we can also just use your MTS data if you're not at a point to use a screener to help you identify students. And then we deliver that support. And again, then we help you measure that data and impact. Because if you're using that grant funding, guess what? You're going to have to report back the impact, and we help you do that. One of the things about our tier 2 solutions, like I said, they're supported. And when I was working in a school, and you guys, I'm a therapist, so I can say this with a lot of confidence, there's a time and place for therapy. After my sister died, some of our kids really needed talk therapy, but there was a point too where focusing on their problems wasn't really helpful. They needed skills with coaching and support that would really help them take those steps towards change. So a school therapist, if you're looking at a 6-period day, they can maybe reach 5 students a day at about $150 a student for one session. But our model, when we really said, well, how can we reach more students more effectively and more affordably? One coach can reach 72 students a day if they're using 5 minutes of support a day from EmpowerU. And that's about $5 a day of support. So it's more effective. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how it works, because I think that is the most important thing, is to understand how we can expand your support of what you're already doing. So we have at the elementary level, and again, these are age branded and appropriate, and we can give you a demo if you're interested in learning more. It starts at 3rd grade all the way up to 12th grade, where schools buy a subset of seats at tier 2 to use as part of MTSS or problem solving team. As students hit that hard, you're able to have a tool now where you can enroll them in an intervention program that combines skills and support. Students get on their device and they complete that lesson, a clear path with videos, scenarios that are differentiated by grade, completed independently or in small groups at that elementary level from a device during, set intervention time. Again, we have flexible integration. We work with you, whether you want shorter or longer versions, depending on your school structure and the students you're identifying. And we've worked hard that at the middle school and high school level that you can give discretionary credit, because we're aligned with national health and wellness standards. So it's sticky. So those students who really need it have an incentive. We work with a lot of ALCs and credit recovery programs, or even just regular high schools, to make sure that there's a carrot so students really invest the time to go through this program. That's why we have over 90% completion rate. Again, at this level, they're getting that highly personalized feedback from EmpowerU coach. It's asynchronous. It's not face-to-face. So again, when they finish that lesson, their coach at tier 2 and EmpowerU gets a bing that says they're done with the lesson. They come on, they first read through everything that student wrote, and students open up. Within 3 to 4 days, students are sharing, because we're providing that trusting relationship, really rooted in psychological safety and unconditional positive regard, that students start sharing what they really want to work on. And the feedback they get back from the coach validates it all. We meet them where they're at and make sure they feel seen, heard, valued, and respected. But more than that, there's highly robust and highly personalized feedback that helps them take a step forward and another step forward and another step back forward. Again, there's a live dashboard for you to monitor their progress and collaborate with us so that you can do a full wraparound of service. And the expected outcomes are increased self-control, student engagement, and focus. So what does that look like? Again, I talked about our coaching methodology. These are mastered level school social workers, school counselors, school psychologists who are on our team. Their goal isn't to replace you. Their goal is to do that part of your job that you wish you had time to do, but you don't. When I was a school counselor, I had 400 students on my caseload. I wanted to be that person to provide that daily support for them with daily skills to help them make the change they needed to re-engage and thrive. I just didn't have time. I tried. That's where the idea of this came from. I actually tried using Google Docs and Google Chat, but it wasn't sustainable. I had too many other things competing for my time. So that's when I became really dedicated. How can we provide that part of the support that you want to do, but you don't have time to do, but loop you in so you can follow it and build on. That's what our coaches do. What does this look like? I'm just going to go through an elementary student example. This is a 4th grader who was avoidant, anxious, and disruptive. The student didn't come to school often. When they did, they had disruptive behaviors and a lack of control. Took a lot out of support staff, and it took a lot of teacher support to engage the student every day. Through MTSS, they enrolled the student in EmpowerU during intervention time, and the student used this in a classroom device for 20 minutes during intervention time, 2 to 3 times a week. Then they got that one-to-one support and coaching from EmpowerU through the portal. 6 weeks later, looking at the data, this student attendance was up. Disruptive behaviors were down. The teacher said, I'm noticing that the student is using tools so much. When upset, I watched as she remembered her tools and was able to calm herself down without saying a word. This was a student who before would melt down and disrupt the whole class. This was such a cool thing to witness. The student, this 4th grade student, was also able to reflect and say, I like learning how to control my thoughts and emotions. I feel like I can take better charge of me. That is powerful. And this isn't the exception. This is what happens time and time again. Again, expanding that capacity to have this transformational outcome for a student to increase self-regulation with a combination of skills and support that really expands your capacity to reach more students. This is a 9th grade student who was really struggling with anxiety. The start of the course, the student said their goal was to decrease anxiety, concentrate on schoolwork, and build stronger friendships. After going through the EmpowerU longer course, which was embedded as part of an elective credit for the student was able to say, I feel a lot more relaxed and honestly engaged. I feel my stress is more contained than before. I definitely feel my inner coach has helped me embrace my feelings and thoughts, but also helped me through the difficult ones. I can focus more. So decrease anxiety, focus on schoolwork, and then I've improved my social interaction skills by becoming more open and reaching out to friends rather than waiting on them to reach out to me. Stronger friendships. How cool that the student was able to actually reflect back on the growth they made and how they reached their goals. And again, this isn't unusual. This is not the exception. This is more the rule for students who complete EmpowerU. I talked about data through self-reflection. At the beginning, students take an assessment based on the trans theoretical model by Chaska and DiClemente, which is kind of the gold standard in measuring change, right? Behavior change, momentum. They reflect where they are right now in personal, emotional, social, and academic areas of their life. At the very beginning, they get those results in real time. And based on that, they set a goal in each of those areas to work on. Throughout the course, they take what they learn, they apply it to their goals, and then they take that same assessment at the end. And most often, students are starting here. They're thinking about making change. They don't know how. We teach them. They go through the course with support. And when they take that reassessment, they're here. Almost 2 full stages of change, not in one goal area, but 4. We share that data back with you on a per student basis, on a school basis, on a district basis. So you can really measure that impact. And like we said, 94% of students are showing that growth that they're able to go back to tier 1 without the need of additional supports. So that's our tier 2 programs. Quickly, I'm going to review tier 1. We also have teacher-led classroom lessons, K-12. 20-minute digital lessons from our portal that's really plug and play, no prep. There's journal questions, which are part of what you get at K-5. It's a physical journal. 6-12, it's something you can do in Schoology or a Google Doc where they turn it into their advisor. But this really helps them through writing assignments reflect, again, that take action. Can't just stand and deliver. They need to apply it to their goals. There's a whole library of mindfulness and calming tools that are embedded for teacher use between lessons for daily reinforcement. Again, frequency and dosage, it's still really important at these teacher-led levels. And then we share data with you on a per class basis. We also have an embedded digital lessons for actually grades 3 through 12, where students can it be embedded in health, advisory, or PE, where they complete lessons on their own. Maybe a teacher kicks it off, but they put in their earbuds, especially at those middle and high school levels where they're really more self-conscious to maybe share their heart in front of a classroom. So they're able to really learn these concepts one-on-one and apply them through journal questions that are turned into their advisor or counselor. I'm going to just skip ahead real quickly because I think we're almost out of town. Because I really wanted, not out of town, out of time. I wanted to just really talk about our educator well-being. If there's a place to start, this is it. We know that healthy teachers fuel healthy students. And we have a self-paced online program that's supported with coaching, just like students can, that's transformational. It really has 2 prongs to it. One, learning these concepts that students learn, but really with the oxygen mask on the teacher first, with an eye to coping and care for themselves. How can you apply these skills to you first and then to students? It's a highly popular program. We're working across the state of Minnesota to deliver this as part of MREA to all educators in the state. something that if you're looking for support for your educators, this is a great place to start. And like I said, we also have a healthy families program where for those pre-K early childhood or those elementary families, K-3, where that student is really struggling with dysregulation and the parent wants more tools, this is a great and affordable place to start to deliver at-home programming that's fun and engaging with, again, that real application to help them change dysregulation to regulation, meltdowns to increased coping. I'm going to stop there and kind of stop sharing my screen and see if there's any questions that came up. The next step for each of you, we're going to follow up with an email to you. Thank you for attending. We'll send a copy of this recording and we'll send a meeting link so that you can sign up for a demo to really see this in action and to get enrolled in a demo if you want to learn more. But I want to just take a minute and see if anyone has questions right now before we close today to see if we can help you with next steps. So Christy, anything that came up?
No more questions in there.
We'll be following up. We're so grateful for your time. Thank you again, Mitchell. We are working with CESA purchasing. There is an incentive and best pricing because of that. So we'll be working with your districts. We do a similar thing in Minnesota through co-ops, and we're really excited to really be bringing this to Wisconsin schools. Christy, there was a question.
There's one question that came in about ballpark pricing for per seat.
Yeah, it depends if it's tier 1 and tier 2. It can go from $10 a students at tier 1 up to $199 at tier 2 for a shorter intervention. The semester credit bearing one is more expensive, but we can share that with you. I know there's a lot of money, but when you look at, for this right now, and we can really share with you kind of that cost comparison. But for a 6 to 8 week intervention, it's about $199 a seat. For a full semester intervention, it ranges depending on quantities in the 300s, and we can get you a quote based on your numbers and your where you want to start. So we're excited to talk with you about that. We can get you a quote if you want to just, once you get your email, if you want to just give us numbers, we can get a quote and then set up a time to review that with you. We really like to walk through a demo so you can see it and give you an overview of it before we just give you numbers. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we look forward to continuing these conversations one-on-one. Thanks for being here.